Good evening. Good evening. This is Michelle Biggs, CEO of My Best Everyday Coaching and Consulting, and the host of Real Conversations with Michelle. For those of you joining me for the first time, this series covers topics that many are dealing with or have struggled with the hope that something that is shared you'll be able to apply in some shape or fashion in a positive manner. Tonight's episode is Entrepreneurship, Things You Should Know Before You Get Started. And I have a great guest joining me, Miss Tonita Austin. Miss
Hi,
Tonita, hey.
how
How
are
are
you?
you? I'm good. I'm good. Why don't you introduce yourself and what you do?
Well, my name is Mary Tina Austin, and I am the CEO of MT Austin and Associates. We are a financial wellness firm, so we work with individuals, small businesses is our specialty, nonprofits, and we've been in business for 20 years, just helping people realize their dreams.
Good. So tonight we're going to talk about entrepreneurship from a financial perspective, leveraging your expertise in that way. So why don't you let's talk a little bit about how you got started, and I'll talk a little bit about how I got started as well. I know for myself, coaching has definitely been a dream of mine. I do it at work, and have been doing it for many years, coaching leaders at all levels of the organization. So for me, as I start thinking about planning for my future, right? Because I won't be working for a corporation all my life. But
Right.
I really just started thinking about what is it that I can do and I can leverage. And really want to do something that I love. So for me, it was an easy thing to transition into doing this. But I tell you, it's been a labor of love because I started my business, I should say, I got my LLC December 2017, but really didn't do a whole lot with it until this year. And so I'm learning a whole lot of stuff financially because this is the year that I really started really working my business, right?
Right.
So, how about yourself?
Well, I got fired from my job. I was a corporate controller for a pretty big commercial real estate company, and my mother was ill, and I wasn't as available. So they said, I wasn't available for my staff, and I ended up suing them, and I got a lot of time to really do what I needed to do, take care of family, and then I had my son and I was going to be a stay-at-home mom and just be content with that. And a friend of mine who was a CPA had a contract with the city, and she said we need some extra people. And I said, nah, got my baby, I'm happy. She said, girl, come get this money. So I'll never forget, when she told me what I could make working for myself
Right.
versus, somebody else who's taking a piece here and there. And I was kinda hooked from there. I just kinda fell into this niche of, working for small businesses that didn't need, like, a full-time controller or CFO, but, needed somebody who had, like, the knowledge and the experience that I had, and it's been 20 years of,
Yeah.
fulfilling it. Yeah.
It's imagine, I say how time flies when you're really doing something that you truly love, right? And for
Right.
me, that's what HR has done for me. And like I said, just from a business perspective, it just made sense to do the coaching piece. So why don't we jump right in? And for those of you who are live with us, and I'm gonna try to go between my page because I'm not sure which page is actually showing the comments, but um, we're going to take some
Oh,
questions probably later.
okay.
Okay, we have some time. So let's start off. So, starting a business, one of the first things that people think about from a financial standpoint is what kind of business should I be starting, right? And there's so many different types. So,
Right.
matter of fact, I was on my coaching page this week, and people were talking about DBAs and LLC or S corp. So, what's your advice? What's your advice around that?
It's funny, I just, I do a Wednesday kind of live from my Instagram page, and I talked about this big thing about, everybody's saying get an LLC, get an LLC.
So Wednesday.
And we, it's not for everybody.
Right.
And a lot of people get into it and then they realize how burdensome it is, as far as your accounting requirements and legal requirements. Um, and so I usually suggest to people who are really just starting out with the business idea, they want to start their business, they're ready to be an independent contractor, just start with a sole member LLC. Just
Okay.
keep it really simple, be a sole proprietor. And when you start gaining momentum, and getting more clients and more a steady stream of revenue, then you can start considering a C corp or an LLC or an S corp.
Okay. All
And
right.
I can go into like the differences between.
Yeah, just talk a
um,
little bit about it, just
okay.
high level.
Yeah, yeah, I know it gets
Yeah,
kind
high
of
level because it could be, yeah, you could
it
be a
gets
topic all by itself all night. Yes, ma'am.
right. So an LLC is what everybody says is really a sole proprietorship. So anybody who says, I'm going to go out on my own and do my thing, you're a sole proprietor. And once you register with the state, most states you're required to be a sole member LLC. It just means it's just you.
Right.
Once you become, and that also is intertwined with your own personal tax return and your personal finances, your social security number, they're all together. When you become incorporated or a corporation, it separates your business from your personal. So the business pays taxes, the business can get sued for any financial obligations, but the members or the shareholders, depending on whether it's a corporation or S corp, cannot. What people don't know, though, is it doesn't protect the person from any kind of civil suits.
Okay.
So if there's an employee, which you probably know,
Hmm.
um, or I don't know, somebody abused somebody,
Hmm.
that's not going to necessarily protect the shareholders from that. But
Right. So really need to think about as you're starting out what kind of business. So what I'm hearing you say, it's very small, just getting started. DBA might be the way you want to go, or small S corp. Is that what you call it? Solo S corp.
sole member LLC, yeah, it's just
LLC.
pretty
Okay.
much a sole proprietorship, and because the corporations come with some hefty fees. It's almost $200 to get incorporated, and you need to like put your name out in the paper if you need a fictitious name, and you're paying for that. You got to have an accountant to file those tax returns, which are probably triple what you're paying as a individual.
Right.
So S corp, you have to, if you're a shareholder and you work for the business, you have to have a salary. So
Right.
then you're paying a payroll service. That's what people don't know when they tell people, oh, LLC is the best way to go. Yes, it protects your income and
Hmm.
taxes and liabilities, but you have to have the cash flow to be able to really do it.
Right. Right. And what about people thinking about 501(c)(3)s, right? Which is not for profit,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Who should be thinking about that kind of a business versus an LLC?
Someone who's doing that type of work, that community work, where they would be eligible for a grant from, the federal government, the state, or local artists.
Hmm.
A lot of artists can get grants and they can run it through their nonprofit, which means that they don't pay taxes on any of it. Excuse me. And but then again, there's again, to do a tax return for a nonprofit is almost $1,000.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
and these are things people don't know, and they get into having a nonprofit and they don't file the return, or if you bring in more than $50,000, you have to file a return.
Okay.
And it can be costly. So if you start a nonprofit and you're not really bringing anything in, and you know, then it can really cost you in the long run. So you really have to be viable.
Right. Right. And I know the 501c3s, I know some people, even with the 501c3, they also then do a for-profit part of the business as well. But how does that work? You know?
Well, you can. So let's say the for-profit piece would be taxed.
Right.
So you could have let's say I have a client that has a shopping center. The shopping center is held by a nonprofit, but it's managed by a by a profit company. So the for-profit company can do, I don't know, can sell things or do things for profit, and then they still have this entity that they run that is nonprofit, so it's not taxed. And so sometimes
Yeah.
churches do that. Like they're really not supposed to. If they make any money that's not going back into the nonprofit, then you have a for-profit issue, and people run into trouble there too, right? Like they
Right.
have a
So that's the
nonprofit,
key. That's the key with nonprofit. You got to put the funds back into
right?
the business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't go selling dinners and then go on a trip with it. Take the whole church
Right.
on a trip with it. Like it's not. Yeah,
Let's not go there. But yes, 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 yeah.
not that that ever happens, but
I know, I know. Can you talk about, because I know one of the things, and I definitely did not think about it because, like I said, I was so excited that I started a business. And for me, the whole coaching thing came after an emotional time in my life. So I started my business, and December 18th, I decided to file for my LLC. And I was excited, right? Then come April, and they're like, yeah, that counts as a full tax year. And I'm like, huh? What? What? So and of course, I didn't do business that whole year, but it does count as a full tax year,
right,
right?
right,
So
right,
you
right.
got to think about the timing that you're filing for your company, right?
Yeah, that's true because it's kind of like it's not like when you have kids and you want to have the baby before the end of the year so
Yeah,
that you can get the deduction. It's not it's not the same.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so yeah, you want to. It's ideal to start at the beginning of the year because yeah, if you start your business in December, then you've got to file return in December,
yeah,
even for that 1 month. And
yeah.
that's it's not like you're going to pay taxes because you probably haven't done anything, but you got to pay somebody to file, file for you, which
That, and when you think about it, so talk a little bit, and my accountant told me a little bit about it, and I know she was like, Michelle, you need to make some money this year. This is your third year. So talk about this whole thing about, I mean, you have like 3 years or so where you don't have to make some money, but after a while, if you don't make any money, then it looks like you're just doing something for fun.
right. And what they consider that as a hobby. So if you go 3 years and you're in business and you're in the red, then after the third year, they're going to start considering it a hobby. You know,
Right,
definitely 5 years, 5 years, and you know, and if it's a hobby, then you can't deduct your
right,
expenses, and the IRS could actually come back and audit you, and you're in trouble.
okay. So you really do want to start bringing in some kind of money within those 3 years, which is
Yeah,
why my accountant was like, Michelle, you need to do something, right? I was so excited. Like I said, I was so excited about starting it. And quite frankly, for me, because I was working as well, and my next series, I'm going to talk about, living your dream. And I know a lot of people will start businesses while they are still working full time, right?
absolutely,
Which is what
absolutely.
I did. So I really wasn't thinking about doing a whole lot. But like I said, that ticker in my head was like, okay, Michelle, this is the third year. I need to start doing something so I can show this is not my hobby, right?
Right, Right, right.
So, what about the whole thing about establishing your LLC in one state, but just operating across maybe many states? What's the rules around that? Do you need to file for within every state in which you operate?
Well, you can incorporate or create the LLC in one state, and but if you do business, let's say if you incorporate in Pennsylvania and you do business in Delaware, um, or vice versa. Let's say most people incorporate or used to incorporate in Delaware because there was no taxes and they
Mm,
really didn't catch up. Now they're starting to catch up and
okay.
realize what people are doing. But so your business was started in Delaware, you're doing business in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is gonna want their piece of the pie. So what you are supposed to do is file as a foreign corporation in Pennsylvania. So if you go do business in New York, you should file as a foreign entity in New York. So which that triggers New York to say, okay, you're making some money in New York, then I need some sales tax. I want some, some kind of business privilege tax they're going to collect. So you can just file in one state, but you would most likely have to file state tax returns in all those states that you're doing business in.
Okay. And does that mean physically doing business? Because in this world of virtual now, how does that work?
Well, it's where you're earning the income. So um, a lot of tax authorities are really looking at that again because there are people who, they're sitting in, they're not in the city, they're doing work virtually. So technically they're working from their home. Um, but they're going to start looking at who you're doing business with versus where you're doing business. And I sat in on a seminar where like Philly is starting to look at that because they're losing revenue.
Right.
'Cause you're sitting, you're not in Philly, but you have all these Philly clients. So what I suggest people do, and I know QuickBooks can do this, I'm not sure about FreshBooks, but whenever you invoice a client, you can set up um, where they are, the location, and so that you can run a report over the revenue from whatever state or
Hmm.
city or over town, and you can, if you get audited or if you need to do separate returns, it's easy to separate that activity.
Yeah, because I think about myself. I mean, I can coach anyone anywhere virtually, right? And individuals who are selling merchandise, same thing. So what I'm
Right.
hearing you is probably more to come on that,
Yeah.
right?
They're
In
gonna
this
get their
world.
money,
Yeah. Why am I not surprised? Okay. Um, how about insurance? As an LLC, important to get insurance?
yes, I would get, if you are not working for anyone else and you don't have disability insurance, disability was the first insurance that I purchased as a sole proprietor because if something happens to me and I can't work,
Hmm.
nobody's, nobody's giving me any sick days. So that was one of the first things. And I recommend people to go with whatever um, organization you're with. A lot of people are with different, group insurance policies are always,
Hmm.
um,
I'm writing that down because I never even thought about that. Like I said, I'm working full time now, so I don't have to worry about it now. But yeah,
yeah. So
um, okay.
find, AARP or some,
Hmm.
somewhere a lot of organizations, if you're affiliated with an organization, um, then they usually have the better rates
Okay.
for disability insurance. Um, you know, The other thing is liability insurance. So if you're working with people who
Hmm.
could possibly sue you for, you know, telling them the wrong thing, or I have to have it as someone who prepares taxes and works with money, I have to have um, coverage so that if somebody says I did something wrong, that they can't come and take my house.
Right,
That
right.
I have coverage for that. Um, what else I think of?
But the protection of your company is important. And again, I wasn't for myself. I wasn't thinking about that, but myself and a couple of my fellow coaches who knew into doing this, that was one of the things that we were advised: go ahead and get yourself, insurance, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why, as a coach, you need to stay in your lane. Um, and it really is more so about getting people to where they need to be on their own, and
Right,
less of you telling people what to do, right?
right, 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 right.
Yeah. Okay. So insurance. Um, we talked about the best time to file for tax. Did we talk about that? When is the best time to file for your business? Yeah, we did talk about that.
Yeah, right at the end of the year.
Yeah. Advice on funding a business.
I think it was okay. So, what people are finding now with all these PPP loans and all these COVID grants and everything is that when you're asking for money, they want to see that you can manage your money.
Mm,
So, this is a time when accountants are really valuable. I mean, my business did not stop when COVID hit. It just escalated because people wanted to go to banks and they didn't have a balance sheet or didn't even know what a balance sheet was or financial statement. They couldn't pull together something that showed what revenue they were taking in and what expenses they had. So that's my first thing is, if you're going to do it yourself or if you hire somebody, collect that information on a regular basis, reconcile your bank accounts, get that straight. And then you can go to, I know here it's the Women's Opportunity Resource Center,
mm-hmm,
um, the Enterprise Center. There's a lot of minority business enterprise centers or equity, excuse me, programs. The Small Business Administration is just kind of a one-stop source that can tell you all the sources. But I would go to your local small business association or find out where the in your town or in your state, the places that support or fund small businesses.
mm-hmm. I know even the Chamber of Commerce has lots of information.
Mm-hmm.
I know here in North Carolina we have the Women's Center and
Hmm.
Wake Tech College. For anyone on my live who are from North Carolina, Wake Tech College offers a lot of free courses around entrepreneurship and things you should know. So
Hmm.
definitely need
Hmm.
to take advantage of that.
Yeah, a lot of colleges and business schools,
Hmm.
sometimes will have a hub that will help you with, forming a nonprofit, and um, there's a lot of resources for that. But you really have to be ready
Hmm.
for it. You walk in the door and you don't know what, equity means or what
Hmm.
your profit is, and they're not going to be able to help you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know I have to get better with my accountant gave me a booklet that kind of, I mean, and she was saying, Michelle, every time you're paying for something, buying something, what have, just
Hmm.
put it in the booklet, right? And there's things like, again, I wasn't even thinking about this, but your travel time. Let's talk about working from home, right? What's the rules around that and what you can deduct?
Yeah, so that has changed a lot. It used to be that you could, if your employer required you to work from home, you could deduct these home office expenses, right, off your tax return. You could also deduct unreimbursable expenses. So let's say you had to use your phone, your cell phone, you could deduct that on your tax return. Now you cannot, thanks to our president,
Hmm.
change those rules so that you have to have an agreement with your employer to have them reimburse you for those expenses. The IRS is no longer giving you that credit, that tax credit.
Hmm.
So the state A lot of states will, because just they just kind of rebutted what the president. They were like, "I don't care what you're doing. We're not changing it."
Yeah.
You know, they can change at the federal level, but the state's still going to give you that. So people are going to be, shocked when they think that they can get reimbursed for these expenses. So I would go to your employer if you now have to work from home and say, what's the agreement? Are you giving me a phone? Are you giving me allowance? Because now I'm using my internet and my electricity and my water and my cell phone. And you know, what's the deal? To get
Mm-hmm.
reimbursed. But people can't assume that they can just use this business use of home as for a sole proprietor. So unless you are getting a 1099, if you're still an employee, you can't really use that business use of home.
Okay.
So,
So if I wasn't working and this was my business full time, then you could file.
or if you're working and you have this as your business as
Right.
well,
Right.
then you can use it for your business use of home. You
Okay.
can have all those deductions. If you are a sole proprietor, even if you work full time for somebody else, if you have your business and you have your business expenses and income, then yes, you can benefit from that deduction.
Okay.
Just
All right.
that's confusing enough.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Hi
there's a lot of
everybody.
work. Well, but you know what? And I think, definitely, and a couple of friends and I, we were talking about this. I mean, starting a business not for the faint-hearted. There's so many things you have to think about. And I think a lot of times we get so excited about starting it,
Right.
but don't realize all the other things that kind of go with it, right?
Right.
Two more topics, and then we'll take some questions. So one is going into business with a partner. What are some of the things that you should think about?
Well, I hope you like them. 'Cause it's like
Ooh-wee.
it's
Yes.
like a marriage,
Okay.
and have its up and down. Um, The one thing that people do, and even if you're a sole proprietor and you're doing business with a friend, contract, contract, contract. I
Have a
can't stress
contract.
that enough. I don't care if you're best friends, you've known each other for 100 years, you had kids, play together, get it in writing. So if you're going to have a partner, that would be a corporation that's elected to be a partnership. um, then you have to have some partnership documents drawn up. You know, who's doing what in the partnership, who's taking care of the books, what happens if one of the partners dies, what's the exit plan if both of you want to end the business. Like all of it's like you have to have that thought out
Mhm.
ahead of
Mhm.
time because anything can happen. I had a client who had 10 partners and one of them got cancer and died, and they had to figure they luckily, they had everything written out so that they knew what to do, how to distribute, his share. Like all of that has to be thought out and documented.
Right. Yeah.
So I would,
Get a contract.
yes, invest in that attorney because, yeah, it can be a mess if things don't work out.
And I noticed that quite a few young people are starting businesses. I
Yay.
want even you hear these days, go ahead and start an LLC for, a young child. It could be an investment for them, going forward. So what's your advice on that?
I mean, again, if they're doing something with it, what's better is if you're a sole proprietor and you put them on your payroll,
Mm,
then you save a lot of money. So my kids are eventually going to be on my payroll, whether they're like sweeping the floor in the office or
right.
running errands for me. But this is a chance. Let's say you pay them $8,000.
They
You're
got to be
paying.
adults.
Would you say?
They have to be adults working for you though, right?
No.
You want to get to know child labor law
Well,
stuff or that.
it
Come on
could
now.
be.
Go
It could be
ahead.
younger than 18. I'll say that.
Okay. Okay.
So I think here you get your working papers at 14. But
Okay.
because they're your child, that doesn't come into play.
Okay.
So it can be young and sweeping the floors, but that's your child. It's not like somebody else is doing
Right.
that. But most businesses, like your employer, has to pay taxes for you on your salary.
Right.
If it's your child, you don't have to pay those taxes. So you get the full benefit of writing off this employee on your tax return.
Okay.
Uh, so that's really for the sole member LLCs. Doesn't work as well with the corporations. I mean, it works with corporations and sole member, not with S corps and
Hmm.
partnerships that get a little hazy. But it's a huge, you know. Once they turn 16, you don't get that tax credit anymore. You don't get the child tax credit. You can't deduct for childcare. Like put them to work, put them on your payroll, and you get the benefit. This is how people pay only $750 for
Don't go there, Tanita. Don't go there. Yes, take a sip. Let's take a sip. Yes.
I'm not hating on the Donald. He's,
I don't want to be off the air before I get started. Thank you.
working the system. Shout out to all the people in my watch party. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thank you everybody. Thank you for joining. Um, okay, so just general watch outs. I mean, in your experience, I mean, where have you seen people just do the wrong thing, right? When it comes to this, like the things that just we just don't think about. What would be your biggest advice?
Budgets and projections.
Budget projections.
I
Okay.
mean, I've run into people with $1 million contracts, city contracts, who had no idea how much money they had in the bank or how much it took to run their business or how long it would be before they run out of that money. And they just don't plan. They just kind of think that they know what they have. Nobody wants to do budgets. You know,
Yeah,
nobody likes to do
not the
budgets.
fun part of a business at
Yeah,
all.
it's not the fun
Yeah.
part. But if you start out and, a lot of people say, oh, you just go ahead and start your business. Sure, if you're selling t-shirts,
Right.
okay, you're going to buy t-shirts, get the money back. It's going to just recycle. But if you're selling a service that's not as um, constant and consistent, you really want to be able to say, like, what is it going to take me to um, sustain this for the next few years?
Mm.
Know, if I don't have money coming in, will I still be able to keep my doors open? Do I have enough to fund me, or will I have enough? And it's motivating, sometimes to put a budget together and you see, wow, if I brought in this much money, look how what kind of profit I could have, and then I could do X, Y, Z.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen a lot of businesses fail because they don't think past that first, like, I want to start this business.
Right.
Or,
Right.
or they get a big contract and they're like, this is it. And those contracts don't always keep coming.
Right.
That's one thing that I must say that I see a lot. And then I think just not pricing yourself
Yeah.
appropriately.
Yeah.
People seem to think if their prices are cheaper, they'll get more clients, and it's the opposite because you know the most clients I've had was when I raised my prices.
Well, and I think the other piece you have to know your value, right? And I think another thing, and I'll tell you that for me, it's something, um, I had to think about really this year. But one of the things that people don't recognize, I mean, if you're doing a business where you have to get a license or, I mean, all the overhead stuff, right? You got to take that into consideration. Your pricing should reflect that because you do have to still pay for that stuff, your certifications and all that other stuff. So for you to operate,
Right, right, right.
so you got to take all of that into account.
And that's why the budget is good, because then you can see, wow, look what I have to spend to just keep this door open, and I'm
Mhm.
only charging,
Mhm.
it's not gonna be sustainable. You know.
Mhm. Yeah. And this has been a year of pivot for quite a few people just thinking about even business models. I mean, next month I'm going to talk to some entrepreneurs who are doing some great things and some different things. But I've heard so many people talk about the fact that they had to pivot this year, right? Because what they were used to doing,
Hmm.
um, they had to change it up this year. Their model, which could have meant expenses that they didn't think they they didn't plan for, right?
Right,
Or not getting in the money that they needed to run their business as well.
right,
Right.
right. I did a money management workshop, I guess last year, and when I told them how much they should have in their emergency fund,
Oh,
their mouths dropped, you know. And it was just like, really? How am I going to do that? I'm like, just start. It could be $20, but that adds up, every month. And now, when this pandemic hit, I got so many thank you, thank you, thank you,
yeah,
because I'm not stressing and struggling because I had a little cushion.
right.
And so businesses really have to think outside of the box and not get stuck in how they're used to doing things, because this is not going to be temporary. I mean, I hear a lot of businesses saying, like, this virtual thing is working, just
It
not
is.
being in the buildings all the time is working for us. It's
Right.
less expensive. We're not paying all the utility bills. So this, you know, this is something that people have to really adjust to, and start looking at the technology that they need to really do business in
Yeah.
a different way.
Well, Miss Tanita, I want to thank you for your feedback, but let's see. Does anybody have any questions? Have a couple of minutes. Let's see. Let's check our, because I know there's a little bit of delay in what shows up in the Facebook Live versus real time.
Oh yeah, I see myself talking.
Yeah. So any
Uh,
questions out there?
let's see. Hobby. Disability insurance is a smart move. Never thought of that for entrepreneurs. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see. Contact. Okay. And then Mindy is commenting. And
Yeah, that's my friend. She's in that 501(c)(3) realm
okay.
of her
Okay.
business.
Let's
Yeah.
see.
Any questions out there?
Any questions of my folks out here? I'm just looking in my watch party. I haven't checked my page to see if anybody's on there.
Yeah, let's see. What about if you are a business owner with a home? Okay, we covered that. That's good to know.
Anybody have any questions? Hi, Allison. What's up, Mr. Jamal? Hey, big brother.
If not, Tanita, what we can do is I can set up a post so that if we get questions in on my business page, and I know you're part of my business page, so
Oh, yes,
I'll
yes.
have you answer those questions. But thank you so much for taking your time. I know when we met earlier this year. It's just, I'm a true believer that God puts people in front of you. A lot of times you don't know the reason why. And here we are. We were probably in each other's lives, what, 88? And
Yes,
didn't realize it, right?
yes.
You being
Yes,
my soror from New York City.
yeah,
And
yeah.
here we are. But I so appreciate you. Talk a little bit because you do, I mean, this is your business. You do modules and workshops and things like that. So how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I am on Facebook. It's MT Austin and Associates. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's at MTAASSOC. Um, and I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. I think I covered it all.
Okay.
And so, yes, I have another website, thewealthactivator.com, which I do a lot of coaching, one-on-one coaching, and financial wellness. MT Austin Associates is more like you want accounting and bookkeeping and straight up, business,
Yeah.
money management. So, and I have a newsletter, Financial Wellness, Financial Fitness Press.net. My associate is on here, so
Yeah. Yeah.
um, she keeps me together.
Keeps you
Uh,
together. Good. Good. Good.
financialfitnesspress.net is our bi-monthly newsletter, and I give you a lot of good information and tips. But yes, I'm going to have some classes on, how to read a balance sheet, financial statements, and kind of things that you need to know.
I will
So,
put your link on my page. My god sister did ask a question. I had questions coming in now. She said, from Miss Dana Joris, what percentage of your budget should be put aside for marketing or advertising?
hmm, that really depends.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. I It's usually maybe 10%. I wouldn't. It's not a lot, especially nowadays when social media is mostly free, and you don't really need to do a lot. People aren't, printing out pamphlets and things like that anymore. So um, it would be a small percentage of your budget,
Yeah.
but it
Good.
really depends on what type of business. I don't really
Yeah.
marketing heavy.
Yeah.
But
But the main
but
thing is put aside some money to do that.
financialfreedompress.net. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you again. I'm sure we will be talking again. I know I have another topic to pull you in on. You're also an artist as well, so that you have that creative side of you as well.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
wrote a book. I know I have your book here somewhere. Here's your book. Tony's Room, everybody.
Oh, yay.
Yes, yes, I have my book. I have my book. But I so much appreciate you and so glad that I'm gonna say we reconnected. Um,
Yes.
yeah, because it's been some years, but I really, really do appreciate you. So thank you for joining
Thank
me.
you. It's been a pleasure. It's
I'm gonna
been
put you in my green room so I can make some future announcements. So everybody, I hope you really enjoyed that session. I know, like I said, a lot of friends and I we have been talking about business and a lot of people thinking about going into business. I mean, this COVID period has had a lot of us just thinking about our life. What is it that we want to do? So I wanted to make sure I brought in someone who can talk about the financial aspects of the things that we should be thinking about to start. That said, I got some news, y'all. I got some news. So my tickets for my first workshop goes on sale tomorrow. A Dream Fulfilled, Transforming Your Vision into Action is my first coaching workshop. It's a 2-day workshop. Eventbrite. So I'll post a link on my Facebook page. Early bird special, $75 till November 3rd. $99 after that. But it really is for someone who really wants to be intentional about accomplishing their goals for 2021, right? A lot of times, we have things out there that we want to do, but don't take the time to really plan. So this will be an opportunity to do some intentional planning. I'll teach you guys a tool to use to help make sure that you are being thoughtful and intentional in setting goals. Also, for next month, I'm going to continue with the entrepreneurship conversation. This one will be living your dreams and the lessons learned. Have a lot of great friends who have their own businesses and really doing some things that I sit back and I think, wow, I didn't know somebody would do something like that, right? But they have really turned their passion into a lucrative business for themselves. So, may give you some ideas about things that you might want to do yourself. And it will be a nice lead in then for December, for the workshop in December. So, I'm excited about that. If you need any assistance in just kind of thinking through what it is that you want to do, I am a coach. I am a certified life coach and as well Like I said before, HR 34 years. So I've been coaching everyone from the C-suite to the mailroom, right? About a variety of different topics, helping people to get unstuck, talking to people about their careers, people who are in transition. So give me a call, free complimentary session, consultation session, and we can figure something out for you if you want to continue with the coaching. That is it for now. Have a good evening. Um, and the tickets go on sale tomorrow. So buy your ticket. Thank you. Bye.